Alright guys, welcome to part 6 of this 3D Minecraft programming series. In this video we're going to be programming the chunks appearing and disappearing at the front and the back in terms of the z-axis. So if you don't know what I mean, just keep watching the video and eventually we're going to be able to program this. Okay, the first thing you want to do is run this HTML file. This open terminal or command prompt or whatever operating system you're on, the terminal thing or whatever. Okay, so change directory, run this program as a simple HTTP server, and then type in the IP address and the port. Then just open your program, and there we go. So right now you can see that we are in the world, okay? But if I go front, the back isn't disappearing and the front isn't appearing. So that's what we're going to be programming today. The z-axis is that way, so it goes like that. That's z-axis, and it decreases as I approach this side. So when I spawn in a world, the z-axis decreases like this and increases the other way. Okay, so in this video we're going to be programming appearing and disappearing at the front and at the back. Maybe in the next tutorial I'm going to be programming everything else, because in this tutorial I'm just going to be giving the algorithm and everything. So it's much, because it's going to take some time to program this. And then in the next couple of videos, or maybe even in the next video, we're going to be programming all the sides. So not just this side, all the sides, okay? So let's get going. So the first thing I'm going to do, I just want to say that the chunks, they actually load from here, okay? So this is the first chunk right over here, and then it goes like, so that's the first chunk, second, third, okay? Then it goes from here, that's the fourth chunk, and then fifth chunk, sixth chunk, and then seventh, eighth, and ninth, okay? So the problem that I did in the last video, I actually made it into 3 chunks. So if I go like inspect element, I made it so that each chunk is actually like a row, okay? So you can see chunks, it's only 3, it should be 9, right? So what we can do to fix this, what I did, I kept these guys in this column, just remove that and put it inside the second loop, okay? So just like that, and then it's the same thing, except now we have 9 chunks, okay? There you go. Alright, so that was the first part, and then I also want to edit some of this, because when we remove blocks, we have to remove it from the scene. So we have to give we have to make these blocks, these variables accessible from the outside. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm just gonna go like this.mesh, and then so this.mesh is equal to this, and then we have to change this. So this.mesh, and same with this.mesh. Okay, and after that I also want to say this line, because we also have to remove the line. So right over here, this line, and then this line, this line, this line, and last one. Alright, so guys, after you've done this, if you refresh, you can see that it's actually exactly the same. But now we can say like chunks chunks 0 0 dot mesh, for example, and then we can see the mesh, and then also dot line, and that's the line. So alright, so now we can go ahead and make this algorithm, okay? So to re-summarize, or to summarize this again, what I want to do is when I walk forward over here, then after some amount of blocks, like let's say 3 blocks away from the edge, blocks like a new row of chunks should be appearing in front of me, and the chunks all the way at the back should disappear, okay? So that's what we're going to do this tutorial, and maybe in the next one we're going to be programming all the other sides, okay? So let's go ahead and do that. Firstly, I think I'm going to create 4 functions. So these functions are going to like give us information about the lowest and highest blocks. So let me just show you what I mean. So function lowest x block. This function is going to give us the lowest, the value of the lowest, the value of the block. Sorry, the value of the x position of the block that is the lowest x position. Okay, so it's going to give us the value of the x position of the block that is like that has the lowest x position. Okay, so the reason why I'm doing this 4 times is because I want to say highest x, and then I also want to say lowest z block and highest z block. Highest z block. Okay, so I'm pretty sure there's like a more efficient way of doing this in one function, but it's just more visual if you do it like this. Okay, so var x pose array is equal to this, and then you'll see what I mean over here. So var, we're gonna go through each of the blocks. So var I is equal to 0. I should be smaller than chunks dot length I plus plus, and then for var j is equal to 0. J should be small. J should be smaller than chunks I dot length and j plus plus. Okay. Then we can just do x pose array dot push chunks I j dot x. Okay. So now this array has all the x positions of every single block. Okay. Now what we can do is we can return math dot min dot apply null and x pose array. And what this does is, for example, I can show you over here. Let's say var x is equal to, this is the random array, so I'm just creating this. Okay, so x, there you go. And we can do math.min.apply null. You just have to put that argument over there and then the array. Okay, so it's going to say, it's going to return the the smallest value, which is 1. If we do math.max.apply, it's going to return the highest one. Okay, quite simple. Now we have to do the same thing for highest, and the only thing we have to change is this. And now the same thing for these z ones. So we have to change this to z, this to z, same with this, and same with this. Okay, and then yeah, over here, max. All right, so now we have 4 functions that can tell us like the edges, kind of. Okay, so the lowest x position or the highest x position, sorry, the lowest x position or the highest x position, or the highest z position or the lowest z position. Okay, so yeah, now let's program what will happen if we approach the edge. So I'm just going to say if camera dot position dot z, because when we spawn, then we're actually approaching z, and it's actually getting smaller. So you can see camera dot position dot z is 54 now. If we approach the edge in front of us, it's 38, so it gets smaller. And this is 0, by the way. So we go like over here. So yeah, okay. All right, so yeah. So I want to say if we're about 3 blocks away. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. So if we're like over here, then we should see a new row of chunks appearing. Okay. Yeah. So how do we do this? If the camera dot position dot z is smaller or equal to the lowest z block, okay, which is right now 0, and then plus 15, because 15 is, each block is 5 pixels, so 15 divided by 3 is 3 blocks. So, and plus 15 is that way. So if we go like the lowest z block, which is over here, plus 15, which is 3 blocks, 1, 2, and 3. If we get over here and cross it, then new chunks should be appearing. Okay, so yeah. Yeah, I'll just put a comment. 15 is 3 blocks. Okay. Now the next thing, I just want to make this more visual, so I'm just going to create a 2D array of the blocks. All right. Oh wait, what? With 0, 1, 2, 3. Oh, that's 4. So that's 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. So what I did over here, I just showed you how the chunks are actually ordered. So if we refresh, like I said, the chunk starts from there and goes this way, and then down over here, and this way, and then at the far end over there, and then that way. Okay, so you can see over here, X is the player, the chunk that the player is in when they spawn, and then it goes like 0, 1, 2, 3, and then we're in the fourth chunk, 5, 6, 7, 8. What we want to remove, is 2, 5, and 8, and we want to add chunks over here, like here, here, and here. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. First, let me just remove the chunks. So remove blocks or chunks. Okay, so for var I is equal to 0, I should be smaller than chunks.length and I++. I'm just going to go through each block, kind of, not exactly, but yeah. And then what we can do, we can say for var j is equal to 0, j should be smaller than chunks I.length, j++, but we don't want to do this every time, because 0, 1, 2, we just want to iterate through the last ones, like not exactly the last, because 6, 7, and 8 are last, but 2, 5, and 8, okay? So how do we only go through them? Well, what we can do is we can do if outside the second for loop. Yeah, so we can say if I plus 1 modulus render distance is equal to 0. Okay, now what does this mean? So you can see that 2 plus 1, so if it's on 2, which is I, and the plus 1 is 3, modulus render distance, which is 3 for us, because our render distance is 3 right now. You can see it's 3 times 3. And then that is equal to 0, right? 3, because modulus, what that does, it returns the remainder after division, okay? So 3 divided by 3 is 1, no remainder. 5 plus 1 is 6, divided by 3 is 2, no remainder. 8 plus 1 is 9, remainder 3, divided by 3 is 3, no remainder, okay? So it goes through each of them, and then runs this. And then it goes through each of these chunks. So this loop goes through each of these chunks. This if statement says that when you reach these 3 chunks over here, then go through each of those chunks. Okay, so quite simple. Now what we want to do, we want to just scene.remove. This is how you remove an object from a scene. Chunks I j dot mesh, and you can see that's why I put this dot mesh. I made it like a public property of that class or object, whatever. And then we can also do scene.remove the line. Okay, so just like that. Now we removed the object, but you can see that if I look backwards, you can see it actually getting removed. Yeah, there you go. But it's not actually removed. We just can't see it. See, I can still walk here. The reason why is because we haven't removed the blocks. Okay, so the blocks are still there. It's just they're invisible. Okay, so now let's go ahead and remove the blocks. That's also quite easy. I actually want to create a new chunk variable. So new chunks is equal to this. This is going to be equal to chunks afterwards. Okay, so we're going to be updating the chunks pretty much. Okay, so for var I is equal to 0, I should be smaller than chunks.length, I++. Then if, once again, I plus 1, modulus render distance is equal to 0, then what you want to do is you want to do new chunks dot push chunks of the I. Now what does this do? Okay, what does this, oh sorry, not if it's not equal to. Okay, so what does this do? So what this does is it goes through each of the current chunks, and it says that if it's not one of these, okay, so if the chunks, it goes through each of the chunks, okay, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, those are 9 chunks. It goes through each of them, and it says that if the index of the chunks is not 2, 5, or 8, then put the chunk in the new chunk array. Okay, so it's going to say 0, 1, 3, 4, 6, 7. It's going to put these chunks in the new chunk array. So new chunks, it will not have the bottom, it will not have 2, 5, or 8. Okay, so yeah. So that's how we kind of remove the chunks, and we haven't exactly removed the chunks, we just put the chunks that should be there in a new array. So what we have to do now, we actually have to add the blocks, okay, so in front of us, right over there, okay. So let me just go like add blocks. So this removes the blocks, now we're adding the blocks. So I'm just going to create two variables. Var lowest x, let's say, is equal to lowest x block, and var lowest z is equal to lowest z block. Alright, and once again we're using the functions that we wrote over here, okay. So after this, since we're going to create a row of chunks, so it's going to be like a 50 times 150 pixel chunk thing, okay. So it's going to be like one chunk over there, one chunk over here, and one chunk over there, okay. So like a row of chunks right in front of us. So yeah, let's do var I is equal to 0. I should be smaller than render distance, and then I plus. And then we can create a var chunk, and you can see that right now I'm just gonna copy this part over here. So yeah, I'll just copy this part right now. So yeah, so this is where we create chunks. So var chunk is equal to that, blah 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 blah. And then we can say, instead of this, we actually want to remove all of this. So, and same with the z thing. Var x is going to be equal to the lowest x. Okay, so that's the variable over there. Plus I times chunk size times 5. Okay, and if you don't know what chunk size is, it's a variable that we created in the last video. It's over here. It tells how many blocks each chunk is. So yeah, where were we? Yeah, over here. So it's equal to that, and then x should be smaller than this value over here, plus chunk size times 5. Okay, so let me just explain what I just did, and then I'm just going to do x is equal to x plus 5. Alright, yeah, so what I did over here is quite simple actually. I made x equal to, so first, yeah, so let's say this is the chunks that we're seeing, and I'm over here, I'm looking at 3, okay, I'm looking towards 3, and I made x equal to the lowest x, which is 0, plus I, which is right now in the first iteration 0, times chunk size, which is 10 times 5, so 0 times 10 times 5, which is 0, so 0 plus 0 is 0, okay, so in the first thing x will be equal to 0, and then x should be smaller than whatever we just did over here, plus 50, which is like plus a chunk, okay, so that's over here, plus chunk size times 5, chunk size is 10 times 5, 10 times 5 is 50, okay, and then just increment x by 5, because we're going to put a block each 5 pixels, okay. So yeah, and then the next one, when I is equal to 1, you can see that lowest x will still be equal to 0, but now we're going to put 1 times chunk size times 5, so 1 times 10 times 5, which is 50, 0 plus 50 is 50, so it's going to start making the chunks from 50, and then 2 is going to start making the chunks from 100, and then stops over there. Now we have to do the same thing pretty much for z, so lowest z, let's say minus chunk size times 5. I'll tell you why I'm doing this afterwards, and then we can say like z should be smaller than lowest z, and then z is equal to z plus 5. Okay, so let me just show you what I mean over here. The reason why I did lowest z minus chunk size times 5 is because the lowest z is over here, 0, okay, minus a chunk. So you want to start from here and then go this way, right? Because each of the chunks, they start at the top left corner and then go towards the bottom right. So they go like that. That's how they create the chunk, okay? So what we want to do is we want to go like over here, which is, so let's say, okay, wait, how do I, okay, so let's say the top left corner is 0, minus 50 pixels, which is a whole chunk. You want to start from there and then start creating your chunk, right? So yeah, that's what this is doing. The lowest z minus the chunk size times 5. Okay, chunk size is 10 blocks times 5, 50. Okay, yeah. So since we're iterating 5 times, so sorry, not 5 times, in 5 steps, we can just remove this. We don't have to times it by 5. Okay, and same with over here. We have to divide this by 5 because we're iterating, you know, like plus 5. So yeah, guys. So instead of this, what we're gonna do is new chunks. We're gonna add it to the new chunk, but we're not just gonna add it to the back. We're gonna add it at the front. So remember, we first deleted this, and then what we want to do, we want to add it over here. So each of these are actually going to be appended. They're going to be added, okay, at the bottom, towards the bottom. Okay. So yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So new chunks dot splice. That's how you add and also remove. I plus render distance. Or should I do I times render? Yeah, I think I should do I times render distance. Yeah, and then 0. You don't want to. So at the index of this, you don't want to remove any elements. So 0, and then what you want to add is chunk. Okay, so let me just explain this. First, I is equal to 0 times render distance, which is 3 in our case. So 0 times 3 is 0. It's going to put 1 there. Then 1 when I is 1. 1 times 3 is 3. Then when I is 2, 2 times 3 is 6. Okay, so just going to put it over there. Now let's check if this works. First we have to go like chunk. We still have to call a few things. So is equal to new chunks. And yeah. So we just updated the chunks over here. Let's see if this works. Alright, so I'm approaching. Boink. Did it remove? Okay, it did remove. But it didn't add anything in the front. That's kind of strange, isn't it? Okay. Oh, maybe I have to display it. So let me just go ahead and display it. So for var I is equal to 0, I should be smaller than chunks dot length I plus plus. Then we don't want to display the current blocks that we haven't removed already, because then it's going to display twice. That's going to create some errors and stuff, or like some problems for us. So we just want to say the ones that we just added, we want to display them. So if I modulus render distance is equal to 0, so if it's 0, 3, or 8, or 6, 0, 3, or 6, then you want to say then you want to go through each of those blocks. So var I is equal to, var j is equal to 0. J should be smaller than chunks I dot length, and then j plus plus, and then we can just display them. So chunks I j dot display. Okay, so quite simple. Now let's check if this works. I'm just gonna try to make it flatter, so it's either okay. Yeah, that's better. So let's go backwards. Alright, so removed it, and alright, it's lagging quite a bit. So I'm pretty sure I made a mistake somewhere. So what did I do here? Alright, so guys, I found the current the mistake. Instead of, so before it was chunk, it should be chunks. Okay, so chunks is equal to new chunks. And yeah, let's see if this works. So look back, disappears, the front appears. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, alright. So we can just keep going like an infinite world. And yeah, at the back it's disappearing, at the front it's appearing. And if you want, you can always just change like the distance from the edge. So if you don't want it to be so close, you can always just say, let's say 25 blocks. So that's going to be 5 blocks. So if you're 5 blocks away from the edge, then it appears. So yeah, just like that. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's pretty good. I'm actually going to make it like 20 blocks. So yeah, I think that's good. Yeah, and we have to fix this, so we're going to add like another layer at the bottom, but not now. We're going to do that afterwards, so yeah. So right now we can just go straight, and we can't like see over there. We can just we can only go straight, okay? So in the next videos we're going to be doing the same thing as we did for this side, but for the other 3 sides. Okay, so yeah, I guess that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed, and hope you learned something, and without further ado, see you guys in the next one.